Okay guys, in this lesson we're going to go over Boolean and conditional logic. So basically what Boolean is, it's just true or false. If this is true, this is going to happen. If this is false, this is going to happen. So it's just a way of telling the program what to do, telling the app what to do. Boolean is very useful in programming because it is basically the instructions of the program in a way. I mean, there's many other ways of doing it, but using Boolean is basically like giving it instructions. So here we're going to go into some examples. So we're going to create a variable and we're going to name it is this num 10, and we're going to equal it to true. And then we're going to make a var of num1 equals 10. And then we're going to make an if statement. If and then we put the condition, we would put is this. And when you type that in, when you type a bool variable in an if statement or like just there, it automatically means if it is true. Now if you put this, an exclamation mark in front of it, it would mean if this is not true. If this variable right here is not true, then whatever code is inside these brackets will happen. So if we take this out, it would mean if this variable that's in here is true, then this code will happen. So we're going to make this not if it is not true, then num1 equals 10. And then we're going to make an else if. That means else is basically the opposite of what if is. So if this is not true, we will make it 10, and then else would be if it is true. So we're actually going to make this 100. And then else, we're going to do minus 10. Actually, sorry, num1 minus 10. So now we have a little if statement program that figures out if this variable is not true, num1 will equal 10. And if it is true, num1 will subtract 10. And we're also going to put equals true. We're just going to get rid of this else. So we're going to run this. Print out true. And here if is not true, num1 will equals 10, and it's not going to run because it is true. However, if we take this out, we're going to get 10 and true, so it is going to run. So since the if statement is asking if this variable is true, this will happen, it's running because it is true. But if we put the exclamation mark again, it's not going to run. However, if we add an else with the brackets, and we put the same thing, the else will run. Just had to fix that. So now we see that the else will run because the else is basically the opposite of the if, and the if is saying if it is false. So the else is saying if it is true. Now the else is running and the if isn't. So this is just a simple way of using Boolean, which is this variable. This variable is Boolean, Now if we wanted to change this variable to an int, it wouldn't allow us because it already is a boolean. So we can't make it equals 10. It's just going to give us an error. Invalid redeclaration of this. You can't make it an int. You can't make it a string either, because it is of the Boolean type. Okay, now we have a bunch of conditional statements, conditional logic, which would basically be in like less than, greater than, equals. When you want to see, if you put something in an if statement and you want to see if something equals something else, instead of putting 1 equals, you put 2 equals. That's just how the conditional logic is formatted. And then if you want to put does not equal, you put exclamation mark and equal sign. So here we have 4 conditional logic functions, which is less than, greater than, equal to, not equal to. Now let's go into some examples. We're going to use an if statement again. So we're going to make some variables. Var num1. We're going to delete this over here. Num1 equals 100. Then var num2 equals 10. We're just going to delete this. Okay, so now we can do if num1 is greater than num2, this whatever is in these brackets is what it will do. There's also 2 other functions I forgot to mention. We can do less than or equal to, and greater than or equal to. So these are pretty self-explanatory. Let's say it's saying is 0 less than or equal to 1, it would be true. If is 0 less than or equal to 0, it would also be true. And same except for the opposite with this. Okay, so here we have a problem. And that should be good. Okay. So now we're going to do if num1, which is 100, is greater than num2, which is 10. Do this. We're going to do print. This is how you print. You put print, parentheses, and then whatever you want to print. We're going to put 100 is greater. Actually, we're going to put num1 plus space is greater than, and then plus num2, and then we're just gonna get rid of those. So this is gonna print basically 100 is greater than num2. We're actually gonna just put num1 inside. We're gonna put num1, this in parentheses with this in front, and we're going to do the same thing here. We'll put that, all of it in the parentheses. Then we're going to do this, put the num2 in parentheses, and that will print out 100 is greater than 10. If this is true, which it is. So here we have it. 100 is greater than 10, and I don't want that new one. We're just going to add a space. We're going to remove this space here. Actually remove 2 spaces, and there we have it. Okay, so that is how you use that. Now if you want to do less than, it's not going to print out because num1 is greater than. However, if we put else under it and put this same exact thing in the else, it will print out in the else, not in the if. because the else is the opposite of the if. So in the else, technically it's saying num1 is not less than num2. Alright, and another thing we could do is we could put all this in parentheses, put an exclamation point in the front, because the exclamation point means not. So this is basically saying if num1 is less than num2 is not true, print this out. So this, in this case, is going to print the if and the else. Oh wait, the else it's not going to print because the else is the opposite of the if, and in the if it's printed out. However, if we put else, or maybe not, yep. Alright, so that is one example. Now, if we change this to 100, we can do this. If num1 equals num2. Now it's going to print this out because num1 is equal to num2. They're both 100. So let's run that and see it prints it out. 100, except we would have to change this, is equal to. So now it's printing out 100 is equal to 100, which is true. If we put not, then the else will print out. And we get, oh, we got a problem. Oh yeah, we have to put this in parentheses. So this is all pretty self-explanatory. Now the else is going to print out and the if won't, because it's not, and not this would be false. And here we have it. 100 is not equal to. Alright, so now we can put not equal to, and this will now, the if statement will now run because this is not true, and this is saying that this is not true, therefore it is true. So now the if will print out and the else won't. There's many ways of working with these conditional statements, and they're actually very fun to use and very, very useful. Not only in if statements, we can use them in pretty much anything really. So those are conditional logic, and I explained Boolean earlier. Boolean is basically just true or false, and conditional logic is basically just comparing one variable to another variable through all of these functions. I hope you guys learned a lot in this lesson, and join me in the next one.